Welcome to lesson 2 on measures of center. So today we're going to be talking about how to find the center of a set of data. So to begin with, we're going to go over some vocabulary. The first is measures of center. Measures of center simply describes the center of a set of data. When finding the measures of center, we are looking for three things: the mean, the median, and the mode. The mean is going to be the average of the set of data, so the average of all the numbers or data points. To find the mean, we are going to, step 1, add up all of the numbers in the set of data. 2, we're going to divide by the number of values in the set, and that will go ahead and give us the mean. The next measure of center is going to be median. The median is just the middle number within the set of data. So in order to find the median, step 1, we're going to put all of the data in numerical order. So put it in order from least to greatest. Step 2, we're going to find the middle number. If we have an even amount of data points or an even amount of numbers, there will be 2 middle values. So in that case, then we're going to find the mean of those 2 values. And the next measure of center is the mode. The mode is just the number that appears most often in the data set. It is possible to have no mode, or it is possible to also have more than one mode. So that's important to keep in mind. Lastly, we're going to talk about outliers. Outliers help us determine the best measure of center. So outliers are any data point that are way out of range in regards to the other data points. So if you have one number that's way far away from all of the other data points, that could be an outlier. Now later in this unit, we will figure out how to prove whether a number is an outlier or not. So we will get there in the next couple lessons. With outliers, the mean changes, but the median does not. So those outliers do affect the value of the mean, but the median should not change depending on whether there's an outlier or not. So the first example, we're going to look at record high temperatures that occurred in Chicago, and we're going to find all of the measures of center. So we're going to start by finding the mean. And to do that, we are going to take a calculator and we are going to add up all of the numbers in the data set. So you're going to take 28 plus 36 plus 18 plus 25 plus 12 plus 44 plus 18 plus 42 plus 34 plus 16 plus 30 plus 31. And you should have gotten a sum of 334. Now, I always like to tell students to go back through and just double check their sum, because when there's so many data points, it's easy to type something into your calculator incorrectly. So go ahead and double check that sum for me. Yep, and again, I got a sum of 334. So then for this sum, we are going to take that 334 and we will divide it by the number of values that were in our set. So let's count the number of values: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we're going to take 334 and divide it by 12. And you should get a decimal. I would round to the nearest hundredth, and that decimal then should be 27.83 or 27 and 83 hundredths. So our mean here is going to be 27 and 83 hundredths. Now I will say that mean sometimes is shown like this with an X and a bar on top of it. So if you ever see this symbol here in math, that is referring to the mean value. Next, we're going to find the median. Now, in order to find the median, we actually need to put all of these numbers in numerical order, which depending on your data set can be a little bit of a tedious task. So what I like to do is find the smallest number, which is 12. We'll start with that, and then we'll cross that number out. And then we'll find the next smallest number, which is 16, cross it out, and then 18, cross it out, and then 18 again. Then it should be 25. It gets a little bit easier as you go because you get rid of more numbers. So next would be 28. Cross it out. Next we're going to have 30. Cross it out. 31. Cross it out. 34. Cross it out. 36. Cross it out. 42, cross it out, and then lastly but not least, 44. Okay, so now we just want to find the middle of our numbers. So all I'm going to do is work from left to right. I'm going to cross one out on the left, one out on the right, one on the left, one 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 on the right. And here we can see that instead of being stuck with one number in the middle, we're actually stuck with two numbers in the middle. So what we actually want to do is just find the mean of these two numbers. So using our calculators, we're going to take 28 plus 30. And that should be 58. And then we can divide that 58 by 2. And that should give us a mean or a median of 29. So over here on the side, we can list our median as 29. And then the last thing we're going to do is find the mode. Now the mode is the number that happens most often in the set of data. So once you put the numbers in order, it's pretty easy to see which one happens multiple times. And we can see that 18 is the only one that happens multiple times, and it happens twice. So then 18 would be our mode. All right, next we're going to talk about best measures of center. So when you're interpreting a set of data and you're trying to analyze what that data means, sometimes it's helpful to figure out which measure of center is the best to look at, because as we can see, we found three very different measures of center in that first problem. So which one is the best to use as the center point of the data? So to find the best measure of center, we need to keep a couple components in mind. For mean, we're going to use the mean as the best measure of center whenever the data has no extremes or outliers. Okay, this is what's most popular. So it's most popular to use the mean, and that's why we usually call the mean our average. And usually when you're hearing about sports statistics like batting averages and things like that, you're hearing that word average. For median, when the data has extreme values or outliers and there are not big gaps in the middle of the data, the median is going to be your best measure of center. So anytime that there are outliers and you're not seeing huge missing chunks in the middle, that's a sign that the median would be the best measure of center for you. The mode is any time that the data has many repeated numbers. So if you've got multiple numbers that are repeated several times, the mode is probably going to be the best center point. So given the following sets of data, we're going to determine which one has the best, or which measure of center is the best for that set of data. So we're going to start by looking at these this first set of numbers. We're going to see 152, 167, 182, 155, 173, 154, 189, 166, and 87. So we see here that our numbers are pretty much all in the same range, except for this number right here of 87. So we can see that this number is pretty far away from all of the other numbers that are in the data set, so this is probably an outlier. So since our data has an extreme or an outlier, and there's no big gaps in the middle of our data, we can say that the median is the best measure of center here. All right, if we look at the next one, we've got 8, 5, 6, 8, 8, 7, 9, 8, and 12. So we've got numbers ranging between 5 and 12. We've got 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and then 12 is kind of off here on its own. Now, 12 is not really a far enough gap to consider it an outlier yet. In order for 12 to be considered an outlier, you'd really have to go through the process of proving that it's an outlier. And like I said, we'll be doing that later in this unit. So given what we know about best measures of center, we're seeing that the number 8 is repeated many times. Let's see, it's in here 4 times. So we can argue that the mode then is going to be the best measure of center. And the next one, we've got 24 and a half, 25 and 6/10, 30 and 8/10, 28 and 7/10, 29 and 25 hundredths, 23 and 7/10, and 31.6. So in this case, we're not really seeing any numbers that are super far away or considered outliers, and we're also not seeing numbers that are repeated several times. So we're going to say that in this case, the mean is that best measure of center. All right, for the next one, Jenna reached the average Jenna researched the average precipitation in several states. So we've got the precipitation for Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, Maine, Kentucky, Nevada, Missouri, and Florida. We're going to go ahead and find their measure of center. So to start with, we're going to find their mean or their x-bar. So we can go ahead and add them up, 58.3, 54.5, 50.7, 60.1, 48.7, 48.9, 9.5, 42.2, 59.2. So I got a total sum of 432 and 1/10, but again, I'm just going to go through and double check that sum. I suggest that you do the same. And again, I got 432.1. So then we're going to divide this by 9 because there are 9 sets of data here. And that should get you an answer of 48 and 1/100th. Again, I would round to the nearest hundredth. I think that's easiest. So our mean is going to be 48.01 or 48 and 1/100th. So the next thing we're going to do is find the median. In order to find the median, we want to list all of the numbers in numerical order. So we will start with our smallest number, which is going to be 9.5, and cross it off as you go. It looks like the next smallest is going to be 42.2. Then we're going to have 48.7, 48.9, 50.7, 54.5, 58.3. I'm going to run out of space, so I'm going to move down to a new line, 59.2 and 60.1. Next thing you're going to do is just find the center of that data. So you're going to cross off one on the left, one on the right, 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 and we're left with one center number. So then our mean is going to be 50.7. Okay, last one is going to be our mode. Now in this case, we're looking to see is any number listed multiple times. And we see that we've got 48.7 and 48.9, but since those are not the exact same temperatures, we cannot say that that's listed multiple times. So in this case, we would actually have no mode because there's no number listed more than once. Lastly, we are going to look and say that there is a possible outlier here. We can say that we're pretty sure it's an outlier just because it's so far away from all of our other data points. So we're going to say that 9.5 is probably an outlier. Like I said, we're going to learn later this unit how to prove whether or not that's an outlier. So then when we're determining our best measure of center, since we have an outlier and there's not huge gaps in the middle of our data, we can say pretty confidently that our median will be the best measure of center. And why is this the best measure of center? Because there is an outlier. All right, so next, we're gonna skip the next page because that's actually a copy of your homework. I do wanna go through one more example, and that's gonna be how to work backwards. So this is a common problem-solving activity that you see in math. You may see it on the map test and the park test and things like that. So we're gonna go over how to do it. So Ryan wants to earn an A in science class. On his last 7 tests, he received an 85%, an 80%, a 95%, a 97%, an 83%, 88%, and a 97%. What percentage does he need in order to earn, what percentage does he need to earn on his last test to earn a total grade average of a 90%? So here we're looking for the average. So we're actually gonna find the mean here, and we know that we want our mean to be 90%. So we want our solution for our mean to be 90%. Now to find the mean, we know that we're gonna have to add up all of these given test scores, and we know that there's one missing test score because there's still one more test that he's going to take. So what we can do is go ahead and add them up. 85 plus 80 plus 95 plus 97 plus 83 plus 88 plus 97. Let's just check, make sure I got them all. 85, 80, 95, 97, 83, 88, 97. And like I said, we know that there's one last test that he hasn't taken yet, so we can actually just assign that a variable. I'm going to use the variable x. And we know when we're trying to find the mean, we add them all up and then we divide by how many numbers we are adding up. So we would be adding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 test scores. So we'd end up dividing by 8. And we know we want his average in the end to be a 90%. So in the end, we want the mean to be 90%. Now, in order to solve this, we're actually just solving an equation. So what we're gonna do to solve this equation is first use inverse operations to reverse the division of 8. So to do that, we're gonna multiply by 8, and then that cancels out the division. Whatever you do to one side, you want to do to the other. So you're gonna find 90 times 8 to be 720. So now we know that 85 plus 80 plus 95 plus 97 plus 83 plus 88 plus 97 plus x has to be 720. So we can go ahead and add up all of the test scores that we do know. So we'll take 85 plus 80 plus 95 plus 97 plus 83 plus 88 plus 97, and that should be 625, and then we're adding that last test score of x, and that has to equal 720. So really now all we're doing is solving this equation. To do that, we're going to subtract 625 from both sides. So 720 minus 625 should be 95. So we know that our final test score, or x, has to equal a 95%. So he needs a 95 on his last test in order to get a final grade of an A. All right, thanks so much for watching this video. You can actually go to the other page in your packet and start working on your homework, and we will check answers tomorrow in class. See your instructor if you have any questions.